Alright, just give an update of what's going on. We got the timing belt on now. The timing marks on the camshafts are in time. If you look right over here and get you a little bit of light, you can see right here that this mark is in alignment with this here mark that's on the timing chain cover, back cover. And if you look over here, you can see that that mark right there is in time with this one up here. Okay. Now, also that while these are in time, the one on the crankshaft is also in time. So I'll show you that mark. If you look down here, you can see the white paint that's up here on the crankshaft sprocket is in alignment with a little notch that's right here up underneath it. So that's in alignment. Now that we have the timing belt on and it's in alignment, I don't want to sit here and just whip this engine over just in the event that there might be some valves that's bent and we don't want to create any more damage than we have to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these here two 5mm socket head bolts. And also back over here, there's a hose clamp, so we're going to slide that off. And it looks like this here cover should come off so we can get access to the spark plugs. And I'll explain about what we're going to do here in just a second. Okay, we got the two 5mm socket head bolts loosened up, so we're going to remove them. Now right here we got this here ventilation hose. Got to remove him. Now we're just going to lift this up off of there. All right. As you can see, we got access now to the spark plug wires. The numbering on the cylinders here starts at the front of the engine. This is 1, 2, 3, 4. Now over here we got two coil packs. This one right over here, this coil pack right here, is firing cylinders number 1 and number 4 at the same time. This is a waste spark ignition system. And this one over here is firing number 2, and it's also firing number 3. Now the way this is going to work, it fires off number 1 first. Number 1 is that the camshafts are now in time, right? So we already got this in alignment. This is set up for number 1, that when these are in alignment, number 1 is going to fire. This is at top dead center. All the valves should be closed on the compression stroke. Now, the next one that's going to fire is number 3. The firing order is 1, then this here number 3 will fire, then number 4, then number 2. So what we're going to do is I want to do a leakage test on these cylinders to see if the valves are bent. So what I'm going to do is put some air into each cylinder, rotate the crankshaft, get it up in position on the top dead center for each firing order. Now this here has 4 cylinders. So for 720 degrees of the crank, that's 2 revolutions, all 4 of these cylinders will be fired. So if I'm on number 1 right now, which it is, and if I take 4 divided into 720, 4 because I have 4 cylinders, I need 180 degrees of the crank rotation to bring it up on the next cylinder, on compression, ready to fire. So when I turn the crank 180 degrees clockwise, number 3 will be in top dead center on the compression stroke. And then I'll put the injector tester in here with the air. We'll listen to see if there's any air coming out, and then this way we can detect if there's any valves are bent. Of course, I'll do number 1 first, then I'll do number 3. I'll turn the crank 180, then we'll be up on number 4 for compression, top dead center. Turn it another 180, then we'll come back on 2. Okay, on this one I just want to give you a shot of just how the wires are routed. You can see that each one of the spark plug wires has this little catch right here. You can see it right there. Basically, you just take it and lift it straight up. But before you do that, you want to kind of take these things and just move them back and forth, try to break the seal a little bit. Just kind of move them. Now I've already got one of them broken loose right here. So I can get my finger and pull this thing straight up. you can get an idea what it looks like. So it looks like it got a little contamination there. Looks like I'll probably just go ahead and replace these wires also along with the spark plugs. It's already got 90,000 miles on it, so they're coming up to be about due anyway. And you can look down there, there's a spark plug way down in that wheel. Okay, as you can see, all of the spark plug wires has been pulled off of the spark plugs. Now, before I did it, just so you know, here's the 2 coil packs that I mentioned earlier. Here's 2 of the spark plug wires, and I just put a magic marker on top of each one of these here spark plug wires. This here is for cylinder 1, here's cylinder 4, here's the other coil pack, cylinder 2, cylinder 3. This way when I pull them off and throw them off to the side, then I'll know which one of the wires will go back onto which one of the cylinders. Now before we move out the spark plugs, I just want to point out one thing. I'll just show you looking down inside this here number 4 cylinder. If you can get a shot there. If you look, it might be hard to tell, but there's a trash and all down in there. And I think you can see it's a little piece of black rubber, maybe came off of the spark plug wire. But anyway, what you want to do before you move the spark plugs is to take some compressed air. You want to blow out around each one of the spark plugs. Make sure the well is cleaned out pretty good, because you don't need any of this debris falling down inside of the cylinders. I just want to give you a shot of the 4 spark plugs. We got them all removed now. Okay, what we have here is a cylinder leakage tester. Basically, this here is an air supply line coming off of the air compressor. I got the regulator set on it. It's about a 120 psi. This one right here is measuring our incoming air supply. Here's a regulator to adjust that. And if I turn it, it should make a little adjustment going down. Okay, and you can see the other one over here. This is our output gauge. This is where we're measuring the pressure coming out over here. This is going to be a line hooked up here. That's going to go down into the first cylinder. This right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to regulate the incoming air pressure to 100. As you can see over here, the output is 100. Now, the idea is that when I put and connect the air supply line here, and if let's say the engine is absolutely tight, the valves are totally perfect, rings are perfect, which under no engine is perfect. So I'm gonna get a little bit of leakage, right? But if I say it's 100% leakage tight, this here gauge will read 100%. So any amount of leakage that's gonna bleed off, this gauge right here is gonna drop down in pressure. Now, the most probably that you want to see is probably about 85 psi. So you're losing 15 pounds of pressure, say, past the rings, down into the crankcase. You shouldn't really lose anything going through your intake valves or your exhaust valves. Now, once we, the higher this number is over here, the better. That means the less leakage. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hook up this line, and I'm just going to screw that down here into this first cylinder, and you can see it's got a little O-ring on there, and it's got a quick connect here that's going to plug up to the output side over here on the leakage tester. So let me get that started in there. Alright, just kind of give it a little snug so it doesn't go anywhere. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and hook this up. You can see what this here will do. Now I've got to remember that the marks are up on top dead center and the crankshaft mark is in line. So this here number 1 cylinder should be on compression stroke, top dead center. That means all the valves should be closed. Therefore, we should have very little leakage showing on this. As I said before, probably 85 psi on this output gauge is the most we want to see. so let's go ahead and see what we got. Now, as you can see, and we can just go ahead and, let me put this at 100 as far as the input, at least get it kind of close here. Yeah, we're losing lots of air here. But the point is, you can see that on this gauge right here, you can see that we have about 8 psi. So we're losing, rough say 90, if this was 100 psi over here, we're losing 95% of our air is just blowing out. Now we got to see where is it coming from. Okay, the compressor started up just a while ago, so I'm able to regulate it, get it up to 100 psi. So you can see right here it's probably around, maybe 8 or 9 psi. Let's just say it's 10 psi. So I'm losing 90% of my air, and you can hear it. If you listen, you can hear it. Now, just to show you where all this air is going, we can go through, if it's leaking through the intake valves, then we know the air is going to come back through the throttle body, which is right here. So I'm going to lift this here out, and you can hear it. And now I'm going to open up the throttle valve here. And you can hear there's a lot of air escaping. That's where this air is coming from. So we know right off the bat that our number 1 cylinder, which has 4 valves, 2 intake, 2 exhaust valves, we know that at least one of the intake valves is bent, possibly 2. Now, let's go back to the exhaust pipe. And if we had some exhaust valves bent, we could hear some air coming out of there. Okay, I'm back here at the exhaust pipe. What you want to do is you want to listen to see if you hear any air coming out of here. And I'm back here, and there is no air coming out of this exhaust pipe. So at this point, we know that the exhaust valves are okay. The 2 exhaust valves for cylinder number 1. Okay, so what we have here now, we've already done cylinder number 1. So the next cylinder that's going to fire is number 3. So we're going to take this mark, we're going to turn it clockwise. The engine turns clockwise, so we want to rotate this crank clockwise. So anyway, we want this mark 180 degrees. We want to be pretty much up here near the top. So let me go ahead and get that rotated around. And we should be getting close. And what I'm doing is I'm looking at this mark down here, which is a notch just inside in the timing cover in the back timing cover. And I'm kind of just going to sight across there and get up to where our white paint is at the top. So I think maybe just a tad more. That looks pretty good right there. Okay, now we're going to be on cylinder number 3, which is the next cylinder that's going to be firing. Remember, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So now this one should be the next one. That's on top dead center. On the compression stroke, meaning all valves should be closed at this point on this cylinder. So let's get the hose in there. We're close to 100 psi over here. Let's just see where we're at. Again, you can see that we got about 10 psi, so it looks like we got another valves. Doesn't sound quite as loud, but of course there's a lot of leakage. We'll go back to the exhaust pipe and we'll check back there. Okay, on cylinder number 3, went back to the exhaust pipe, didn't hear any air. So it sounds like number 3, we have a problem also on at least one of the intake valves on that cylinder. So we're going to proceed. We're going to go up to number 4. That'll be the next one in the firing order. And we're going to rotate it, get this here marked back down 180 degrees from where it's at. And we're going to line it up back here to the timing mark that's on the timing chain cover. Timing belt cover. So let me get it just right there. That looks pretty good right right there. Okay. So now we're going to do. So now we're going to do number 4 cylinder. Let's see where we look at on that one. Okay. Here's number 4. We're coming down. Got it screwed in. We got our air up on we got up a little bit higher, but nothing critical there. Okay, so let's get some air in there. Let's see where we're at on that one. Again, a lot of air leakage. Not quite as bad as far as the rushing sound, but again, you can see there's a lot of air being blown out. I'm going to take a quick behind the exhaust pipe, see what it sounds like back here. Everything sounds good back there on the exhaust pipe. So again, looks like the intake valve on this side. And if you remember in the very first video here, this is being the intake camshaft here. You remember this one here was like the mark was originally about over here when the belt broke. So it's about 90 degrees out of out of sync to where it should have been. And this one here was probably, the mark instead of being here on the camshaft sprocket was probably about right in here. So this is exhaust camshaft. So this thing being that far out, it looks like that's where it's showing where the intake valves look like they got damaged as far as them being bent. Maybe we'll get lucky and maybe the exhaust valves will be okay. So what we're going to do, we got one more cylinder to do, and that's cylinder number 2. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to check that, and then we'll see where we're at with all of them. Okay, right here, you see we were originally where we at. Not in the beginning because we're 360 degrees. All right, so now what we're going to do, we're going to turn it 180 degrees more. We're going to get this mark right back to the top again. And we'll be, let's see. I'm saying it looks like probably right there looks pretty good. Okay, so now we should be on the compression stroke, top dead center, number 2 cylinder, all valves should be closed. So now let's check cylinder number 2. Again, same amount of air passage, but I could crank it up a little bit, but we're losing a lot of air. Again, coming back through the throttle body, which again is saying about intake. Okay, I've already went back to the exhaust pipe, didn't hear any leakage back there. Another thing you can do when you exhaust pipe, you can take your hand, put over top of the pipe, see if you feel any pressure. But in this case, with each one of the cylinders, there was no air at all coming back out of the exhaust pipe. So it looks like on this engine that we have damage to all the intake valves, at least one of the intake valves on every cylinder. So this head is going to have to be replaced, and we'll show that in the next video. Okay, one final thing here before we close this video out is this mark right here is up on cylinder number 2 for compression. So I'm going to take this here crankshaft pulley, and I'm going to go ahead and put it back to where it was originally, and that would have been, this makes 2 complete revolutions of the crankshaft. So that right there looks pretty darn good. So now if we take, now this should be back on number 1, all right? So we should be back on number 1, compression, top dead center, all valves closed. So let's see where our marks lined up on our camshaft sprockets. And now they should be originally like they were. And you can look right here. That is lined right up on that mark. That looks good. You can look right here. That's dead on it. So now we're back to where we were. Now we get ready, we're going to have to take the belt back off, and we're going to have to start disassembling things off of here to get this head pulled off. And like I say, y'all stay tuned. And this is to be the first attempt for me with this kind of engine here, looking, you know, what has to be taken off. So, so we can kind of maybe learn a little bit of it together. All right, so y'all take care, and we'll see you the next time around.